29 of you online. Hello, everyone. We might as well kick off. What I'm just going to do is a quick screen share, and then I will hand over to our speaker of the day.
And hopefully the technology won't fail me.
So you should all be seeing the normal welcome slide now. And I've got no real notices other than to say, obviously, as the lockdown is kind of being relaxed a little bit, it's difficult to know what impact that's going to have to the club. So as always, we're just monitoring the situation. And then as soon as we have anything firm and concrete to tell you, we will. But in the meantime, we'll carry on with this. And so, without further ado, let's get on to the point of tonight, and that is, Angela has kindly, did you volunteer, Angela, or did you get arm locked? I can't remember now.
Volunteered.
She volunteered, yes. Good way of putting it. So I'm going to mute you all, and then you can unmute yourself. And Angela, obviously, you're going to have to unmute yourself. And you should now be able to screen share, Angela. So
how do I do that, Ray? Do you know?
If you go to the bottom in the middle, there should be a green screen
share screen. Yeah, okay.
And then you've got to select which one you're going to share.
That'll be that one then.
And then you're going to have to hop between sessions. If you're using different software for different parts, you're going to have to hop around.
Oh,
Is that PowerPoint?
Yes. Wait a second. Ta-da! Can you see it?
Yep.
Awesome. So this is not going to be perfect, guys. You know that, right? Because this is not what I do. So this is a very short presentation about infrared photography. So I thought I'd take you through kind of the basics and then maybe show you how I would edit a picture. But like with everything else, and like with everything that Ray's covered and Andrew's covered in the past couple of weeks, we all do things slightly different, and the end result will be what the individual likes. So I always edit to what I like, especially with infrared, because it's a very unique, I would say, and people either love it or hate it. So here we go. This, as you can see, is Thatcham Church, right? Just one example. You know what I hate about this is you get no feedback, and I do this when I'm teaching as well. I go, I'm expecting some feedback, and I get nothing. So what is infrared photography? So infrared photography is a look into an invisible world. That's not my quote, it's from somewhere else. Where was it on? It was on a filter website that I found. So basically the human eye can see wavelengths from about 400 to 700 nm, which is, you knew what that was the other day.
Nanometers.
Yes.
Thank you. Which is from purple to red, but the infrared light is beyond the 700 range. Infrared photography can be done, so the infrared photography basically captures the range between 700 upwards. So what you see in an infrared picture is the light which your human eye doesn't see, which is why you come up with some really random, bizarre colours. There's sort of various different ways of capturing that information. So you can do it on either, there's three ways basically. Infrared film, I don't think any of us use film anymore, do we? Maybe a couple. I've never done it on infrared film. I understand that the processing of it was different, but because I wasn't involved with it at that time, I wouldn't have a clue. I don't know if anybody else had any idea of when that, oh my goodness, when that took place. So that typically involves near infrared light in the 700 to 1200 range, and it's different than thermal infrared and images far into the infrared spectrum. So the infrared film, like I say, and also then there's a digital camera, which is what you can use a standard digital camera with an infrared lens, which when we had the speaker 2 years ago now, he was saying that's how he started, and that's what I started with as well. So these two images were the first two infrared images that I took, and that was with my standard digital camera with an infrared 720 IR filter. The problem with that is you need long exposure. So you're okay if it's a static object such as the windmill, and in actual fact I quite like the effect that you get with that with the long exposure, but you are limited on what you can do because it is long exposures only really. So then I very quickly realised that I had to spend some money, which is normal for me. I spend quite a lot of money on everything. And then I invested in an infrared converted camera. And an infrared converted camera, basically what you have to do, or what has to be done, is you have, there's two ways of converting a camera. One is that they insert an infrared filter behind inside the camera, but it limits the range that you have. So the 720 filter, for example, is placed in the camera, or the other infrared filters that you can get are actually placed within the camera, but you're limited to that light range. Whereas in actual fact, what I've got and what I think Paul has got is a full spectrum infrared camera. So all it does is you take out the excuse me 1 second, see, I've lost my flow. See, Ray, you should let me have my words on the screen, I'd have been all right then. So what you do with a full spectrum conversion, you control the light range with external filters. So what I've actually removed is the visible light filter, and then infrared light filter is placed in instead. So all of the light is let into the camera instead of it being blocked by the filter that is in your normal cameras. And then you control which range of light that you look at.
And
So,
Andrew, if I can interrupt, one of the reasons why there is an infrared blocking filter in digital cameras is that the sensor will pick up the infrared light and you'll get overexposure or bad exposure. So in a digital camera, a conventional camera, there's an infrared filter to stop the infrared getting in. You may remember in the film days, you could get a UV filter to stop UV light getting to the film. You could get, or you weren't sensitive to infrared because you didn't have an infrared film in the camera. But with a digital camera, the sensor is sensitive to all these wavelengths, so that's why you've got these filters.
anybody got any questions so far? Because I was a bit yabbery.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I was. Nice support from the husband.
Doing all right.
That's normal, right?
So would
So go on, Ray.
so would you suggest getting a one of your old cameras converted then?
Well, the guy that I used, was a guy on the Isle of Wight. He will only convert mirrorless cameras. You can convert mirrored cameras, but he doesn't do it, and I don't know why. I didn't get one converted. I bought another one.
I can tell you why, because the mirror mechanism is in the way, and you've got to disassemble the mechanics to get at where the filter's going to go.
Okay. So, but he pretty much will convert any mirrorless camera, and he does also, he bought my camera in and converted it for me when he got, so he sourced it and converted it.
Okay.
And I think for me, getting a full spectrum was the right thing to do because I didn't know what type of image I wanted. I think if you definitely want just black and white infrared images, you should have it converted to the black and white spectrum, which is higher up. So they use a darker filter which reduces more light that comes in. But with a full spectrum camera, you've got that full range, and then you control it with the type of filter that you place on the camera itself. And you'll see that in a second actually. So the infrared filters, standard filter tends to be the 720, which is what I was talking about earlier, and that allows, it blocks some of the UV light but allows enough of the light to come in for you to still get some colour in your image. But you can have ones which are lower, so they go down from a 590 up to a 900 and something. The higher the number, the more colour is reduced into the camera. So if you're only looking to have a black and white contrasty infrared image, you'd go for a really high numbered dark filter. If you're looking to have some of the more random colours, which is what I tend to like, you go for a lower end filter. Or in actual fact, having put this together the other day, I thought, what's it like without a filter? And I've taken a couple of images without a filter at all, but I haven't actually edited them yet. But I can already see there's far more colour in those than there is when I've had a filter on an actual camera. Because the one thing about infrared images, you can't do this unless you're prepared to edit, because you'll see in a second the image that you get in the back of your camera is literally orange or red and white image, and there's nothing else in it, and you have to edit it to bring in the color, or in fact reduce the color to make it black and white. Make sense? Thumbs up, anyone? So infrared, so this is the image that I took. This is the image you'd see directly on the back of my camera. Thank you, Ray, perfect. So this has an IR72 filter on. So that's kind of the one which most infrared people tend to sort of say start with. And I think it's because you, like I say, you reduce some of the UV light, more of the UV light, but you still get to get some of the color, which leaves you some editing opportunities. So this image actually, when I, and then a similar image, but not the same, was taken with an IR850, and you can already see there's differences in what is being produced out of the camera. So the IR72 will be, when that's edited, you can get more color from it than the 850, because the 850 will reduce some of that color spectrum. That makes sense. So if you think about the spectrum that we had, that will block it further up.
You can actually see that in those two pictures. You know,
Yeah.
the left-hand one is much richer and more depth to it.
So what I'm going to show you is, this was an image that I took up Lawrence's Lane, actually, in Thatcham, on one of my millions of walks. I'm walking Land's End to John O'Groats on a virtual walk, and I've walked over 400 miles since lockdown. I've got 500 plus to go, but we're getting there. Anyway, so this this is Lawrence's Lane. So I went from this image, and what I produced at the end was this one. So I'm going to have to flick to Photoshop, but I'm going to show you basically the stages that I went through to do that. So you're all right? You're all okay? Perfect.
Yeah. Angela?
Yes.
Yeah, right. If you got the 720 filter in your camera,
Yeah.
can you use an external filter like a Lee Big Stopper or something like that to stop the light getting through, or does that not work?
My understanding is that you can use the camera in exactly the same way as you would any other camera, because if you've had your camera, the whole reason of the whole point of having a camera converted is that you don't have to worry about it being an infrared camera. You just use it like anything else. So your filters and everything else are going to have the same effect. What it will do to the colors, I don't know.
No, I just wondered if it had the same effect as the screw-in filters that you do use.
I haven't tried it, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Be honest.
Try it tomorrow.
Huh?
Try it tomorrow.
Try it tomorrow.
Yeah. Then you can report that.
So unfortunately, once you have done, I'll show you in a minute what you need to do with the picture when it originally comes in, because you have to talk about the white balance and stuff like that before you can do anything with the image. But once you've changed that on the image, you can't really go back to it. But what I ended up with this one was I changed my white balance, which I'll show you in a second, and this is with the original image that I came up with. And you can see it's still got that kind of orangey tinge, but you can see where the colors are going to be, and I like a lot of blue depth in my pictures, and you'll see that when I show you what I did with the hue on the image. The first thing I tend to do is I do duplicate the picture, because Ray told me I had to.
Oh, it's a safety, isn't it?
No, I get it, because if you make a mistake on it, you can go back to the original and duplicate it again, and then you've still got your original picture, and it's all good, it's all fine. I then tend to add, just to give it a little bit of depth, I put a bit of silver effects on, which I don't know if you can see my NYX add-on here, which is my selective tool.
We can't see your Photoshop, so you need to stop the share with PowerPoint and start sharing Photoshop.
Oh, I see. Wait.
Tedious.
It is.
The only other way is to share the entire desktop of the computer, but that, you know, can be painful.
That's there.
That's working.
Darren might have put stuff on there I don't want you to see, Ray.
Indeed.
Right, so this is the image that, as I say, you go through a process at the beginning, which I'll show you on a image I haven't done anything with, where you adjust the white balance and the exposure and contrast, which brings you with kind of your image to work with. So this is what you get, kind of an orangey effect, depending on which filter you use. If I'd have used the image with the 850 on, it would have been a kind of pinky effect instead of the orange. I then tend to put a NYX silver filter on just to give it some depth, and I tend to like borders on my pictures just because we've all got a style, right? And I like a border, and that allows me to do that. But you can already see some of the contrast has been picked out on there, and it's just adds a bit of some of the highlights to it. You then have to switch the channels, so you have to switch your two colors, your red and your blue. So this is the first thing you have to do with any infrared image, is put a channel mixer layer in, and you'll see that that's already brought some of the color up. But if I show you this, what they recommend you do, so on your red channel, so this is your color channel, so red, green, blue, 3 different channels. On your red color, when it first comes in, if I set it back to default, you can see that's where the kind of colors come from. What they actually tell you to do, everywhere I've read, tells you to change blue to 100, red to 0, and then on the blue channel do it the other way around. But I don't like the balance that gives me. So in actual fact, what I tend to do is I almost swap them around. So I leave a little bit of red and I add majority blue on the red channel, and then on the blue channel I do it the other way around. So I then put 80% red and 20% blue on the blue channel. They tell you to put 100% red and 0 blue, and then vice versa on the red blue. It's just again, it's just personal preference. That's it. And with infrared, you see that with the images that you see on the lovely interweb, you see all sorts of different things, and you kind of go, oh, I wouldn't quite have done that, but that's because that's my preference, not theirs.
So that's kind of weird, isn't it? On the blue channel, you're boosting the red, and on the red channel, you're boosting the blue.
Yep. And in fact, they tell you on the blue channel to have 0 blue, and on the red channel to have 0 red.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the first thing you have to do to get any color into an infrared picture. And the rest of it really is about adjusting what you've then got. So that's what I would have had originally. These are where I've done my masking. Oh, I hate masking, Ray. I hate it. In fact, somebody at the end maybe could tell me if there's a cheat way of just selecting one color and masking all that color, because that would help me immensely. Because at the moment I mask manually on my laptop with my mouse pad, and it takes me forever. So I mask the bits which I want to actually do the adjustments on the color. So we then do hue, saturation, depending on what you want from that result. So this was my first layer. So if I go into this, what you'll see, -114, is the layer that it's going to affect. So if I do this, oh, I can't see that on there. 2 seconds. Let's do, yeah, you can see the colors changing on there. Yeah. So that's the layer that I've chosen to change the colors or adjust the colors on, which because when you do the color mixing, it does it across the board, and just the color reversal is it just changes everything based on those colors. So you're then kind of just doing adjustments on those colors that you're receiving. So that's saturation, so that's how much color I want in the master. So I always adjust master first, and then you change the colors then. So then you've got the option to change all of these. In actual fact, red, yellow and green have no effect whatsoever, no point even touching them. But the cyan, blue and magenta, you kind of look and go, what's it doing? And then you can see that it's adjusting it very slightly. So in this particular one, my cyan channels are -99, so I haven't got any, because I wanted this grey. And then the hue is at sort of +8 here. In fact, the next layer will probably be better to show you what I'm talking about on that. So then the next layer is my next mask, which will actually be all the white foliage, which of course in real life is green, but comes out very white in infrared. And you can see, and the blue as well. So what you can see there is that I've brought the blues out and I've toned down the foliage on this particular layer. So if you look at this, my hue is +5, my saturation is +29. So what you'll see is when I do this, there's a reduction in colour.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ta-da, where were we? 29, we were on me. And obviously the lightness as well. So I tend to set it right roughly where I want it on the master, and then to make the kind of real finite adjustments on those different channels when you go into the cyan and the other areas. So you'll see here, you see how that's adjusted that to very blue? It's a lot of fiddling, honestly, especially on a mouse pad.
I think you need a graphics tablet for Christmas.
Oh, I've got one, I think, but it's not that great. Anyway.
You've got one you think.
I think, who knows, I bought it, God knows what it is. So then what I do, so I kind of get it roughly where I want it, but like with all images, you always know if your brightness isn't quite right or your exposure is not quite right, so you've got the options again. So I do all the kind of the colory bits first, and then I would call it titivating. I put a bit of brightness in it and a bit of contrast change, so you can see I brighten up the whole image. You can press auto in actual fact once you've got to this level, and auto tends to work really well, and then I just adjust it slightly. This particular one, I added a bit of vibrance as well, just to give it a little bit more, which would just be a subtle. And then I love this one, which is curves. So curves, you can select an area which should be white, grey, which I imagine reflects your grey card, but Ray, you probably know more about it than me, and then black as well. So you kind of pinpoint the areas and you sample it, and curves, the grey card or the grey one just really lifts it and makes it more of an image. So you can see we've got full contrast, so you can see the outline of the leaves. We've got a really blue sky, which I love in all my images, and you can see that I've toned down the grey for the bark and the road, and that was my final image with that particular one. What questions do we have?
Very good.
So you do this for every photo. This is a lot of work, I guess.
Yeah. And in actual fact, what I've started doing, Ray, is doing HDR as well. So in actual fact, what I do is I take 3 until last week, and I've started doing 5, merge them into 1 to make it HD, and then edit direct from HD.
So you merge them completely unedited, orange,
Yeah.
in other words.
Yeah. So
you merge the 5 orange pictures.
Yeah.
And then do what you've just shown us here.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you want me to, let me show you what it comes in like originally. So I'm going to open an image that I haven't edited yet. All right, it won't be anything rude. These ones I took the other day, but this was with a darker filter. So this will be with an 850 filter. Let's open this one. No, it's struggling. Oh, it's because it's HD image. Can you see that? Has that come across?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got like a pink image on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you have to do with these is you have to change the white balance. So the white balance, you can't leave it as shot because that is what it is. So you whack up your temperature, or whack it down, I should say. And then you take your tint to about -120. So you can see, because this had a different filter on it, this has gone straight to black and white. Because it's already reduced all of that light color coming in. It's reduced how much actual color can come into the image. And then what I tend to do is, because you've got these options of exposure, contrast, highlights, I don't really worry about them. I just press auto and it sorts it out for me, because I do all the rest when I come into editing anyway. And then I open that image and then start with all the layers that I put in on it.
Just to be clear for everyone, you were in Camera Raw there,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
now you're in Photoshop.
Yeah. You can only take, because you have to do the color changing on infrared, you can only use raw images anyway. You can't take them in JPEG because you can't then swap the color channels. And that's really it. The rest of it is really what you do in editing.
So,
I tend to find that I look, the images that I tend to find work most are static images. So like locks, buildings, old buildings, rusty cars are brilliant. Anything with lots of foliage is amazing because it comes out like it's been on snow. I don't tend to like people particularly in infrared because they come out white or purple and I don't like it. And animals are a bit strange as well in infrared, which is why I stick with the kind of architecture type stuff, really.
so because of all the extra work involved in processing, I imagine you're very conservative when it comes to actually taking pictures. Or
No.
do you take... Okay.
I'm not conservative in taking them. I'm conservative in which ones I then decide to edit. So I will still take 1,000,001 pictures, and then when I get back, I will then edit them, choose which ones I'm going to edit.
Are you developing an eye now on knowing what will work and what won't?
I think probably yes, but I couldn't tell you what it is. It's just because it becomes instinctive, doesn't it? So it's like with any picture, it becomes instinctive. You've probably all seen me sort of promoting my website. There's not really anything, there's no reason to that except go and have a look at the images, because you'll see if you go back, because I started this in 2018 after that guy came to visit us, and you'll see the images have changed quite a lot in my editing between 2018 and now. So I went through a kind of phase where I had really red bright skies or really random colors, which is great with infrared because you can do it and it's a bit different. And I posted on Instagram the other day two images, exactly the same image, just the way it's edited completely different. So I had the Greenham Common Tower, blue sky in one, purple sky in another, two very different end results, but exactly the same image. It's just adjusting those hues, the colouring basically into the image. But you'll see, so like I said, I've been through the kind of black and white stage, I've been through the purple stage. At the moment I'm into the kind of just more natural but vibrant natural. So I've got blue skies, green grass, and then black things in the middle, trees and things.
So are those shots taken handheld?
Yes.
So what sort of shutter speeds are you getting with the filters on?
You've got to remember you're using the camera like you would any other camera. So your
Right.
shutter speed, you're just basing it on what the camera's telling you. You don't have to worry about the fact that you've got a darker filter on there because it doesn't stop it down that much. Especially in the sunlight we've had recently, you really don't need to worry about it. You just adjust your F numbers like you normally would. You adjust your ISO speed, your film speed, and you just use the camera like you would any normal camera because it's just converted internally.
Yeah, I've only ever tried it with a screw-on filter.
Yeah,
and it was about 20 seconds.
Yeah, so the Wilton windmill pictures that I put in that presentation earlier, they were my original infrared pictures taken with a non-converted camera and an R72 filter, and that would have been a really long exposure, which is great for the effect, but you are limited on what you can take then.
But I don't understand the physics there of what's going on with that filter, because the infrared light is still getting through the camera, surely.
No, the filter, that when they convert them, they remove a little filter in front of the sensor that blocks infrared light.
Yeah, no, what I meant was if you're using a regular camera with an IR filter.
Well, some light still gets through. That's why you have the much longer exposure times, because you have to let...
Kind of emulating an infrared camera then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to read up. I don't understand the physics of what's going on inside, but Yeah, I mean,
Well-
it doesn't matter really. It's just academic interest. Yeah.
And
You
I,
got-
to be honest, I don't tend to worry about why something does something, which is why I wouldn't be able to tell you that, Ray. I just know that it does. So,
Yeah.
because that's not how my
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah, no, it's fine. I just, yeah, the engineer in me wants to know.
Yeah, no.
Have you got any pickies you can show off?
Oh, probably. Let me. Yes. Bear with me. Hold the line, caller.
Go to your website.
I could go to my website actually.
Well, yeah, if you want to
Shall I?
share the browser on your.
Right. Bear with me a second then. Oh. Ta-da. Right, let's find it. There it is. Here we go. So this is, I changed this the other day actually, this front image. This is up by the Greenham Common Tower. So you can see what I mean by almost like natural colours, but not. So they're just kind of enhanced colours. So they've got all the, in actual fact, the poppies, they're not red, they're white up there. But you can see, that took me ages. That's got about 5 layers on it, that one. All hand done on my little mouse pad. I'm assuming you can see that okay as I'm waffling on.
Yeah, it's fine.
So this is, if my website is infraredpicture.com, if you ever want to have a look. But it literally is just where I've been storing my images. So these are stuff I've taken in lockdown. So that's Lawrence's Lane there, Bucklebury. So I've discovered the woods along with the rest of Thatcham, I think, up at Bucklebury.
I mean, that one on the left is really interesting because it's almost like a split tone picture. You've got the black and white almost upper half and then the coloured lower half.
Yeah, and that's a lazy one, Ray, because it's only got 2 layers in it. Because because I'm on the mouse pad and I don't have a lot of patience, I wasn't going to sit and layer out all of the trees, so I did it a lazy way. But it works, it still works, which is why you know I don't tend to worry too much. And the thing is with the infrared is you can just do what you like. The middle one there, you can see there's a horse in there. In actual fact, that came out all right because that horse is white, so he came out all right. But the one there on the left, that's you can see that's almost quite natural with the grey lane and the green foliage. There's a lot of those going on at the minute. What else have we got?
I mean, are you finding that you're picking up features in the picture that you wouldn't have known about otherwise?
Yes, so I tend to like cloudy skies. So you see that one on the left with the clouds sweeping up to the right hand corner. I loved the cloud formation in that because I knew that was going to come out well in the picture. But when I looked at the image afterwards in the river, the green weeds, they were also being picked out separately in a layer because I wanted to highlight them because they give something different to the water. And also the kind of the mirror image of the 2 bushes as well on the side there. But sometimes getting water the right colour is really hard because it comes out a bit purpley. So you have to do quite a lot with the little adjustments, and kind of 1 or 2 notches can make such a massive difference. Then you've got on the right hand side the kind of long one, that's up at Greenham, but that's a panoramic HDR. So that's 5 images HDR'd and then stitched together as well. So I've been using all your tips, you see, Ray, all your little things you've been telling us. You use it exactly the same with the images, the infrared ones as well.
Well, this is why I thought it was worth covering HDR infrared, because it does kind of bring many of the techniques together that we've been discussing over the last few weeks.
So you see the 2 Greenham Common Tower ones, that's the picture I was talking about. That's exactly the same image. So you've got one with a really blue sky and then one with a really red sky. And that's only in the hue adjustments. There's nothing different on that. It literally is one end of the slider to the other, and that's it. That's the only difference.
I think Greenham and a red sky is kind of a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit eerie, isn't it?
Armageddon
Bit
kind of
nuclear.
message.
These are
Oh, boring.
these are actually Thatcham by Dunstan Park. These two on the top. There's a little just where they're doing the flood stuff. There's kind of like a man-made pond, but when you go up round there, you don't really think you're in Thatcham at all. But that's so you can see again two images, same two images, just edited differently. So one's colour and one's black and white. So the little light spots that you see that quite a lot with infrared, and that's because of the UV light, and you can't get rid of them. And in fact, you're best trying not to get rid of them and just incorporate them. So those two images, there's three in there because again, that's a stitched image. So you'd only normally get one kind of light ray, if you like, through it. But because it's three images stitched together, that's why you've got three across the top.
You can't filter out the UV with a filter.
I don't know what it. I haven't done it because I don't know how much of the actual infrared light it would then cut down. So, but again, yeah, I don't know. Again, it's something I can try and just see what happens. So,
I mean, in theory, UV is at the totally opposite end of the spectrum from infrared.
yeah,
So
that's what Darren was just saying.
it might be worth a shot. See if that
Yeah.
happens.
Maybe it just comes through the eyepiece, same as light does on a long exposure.
Oh, yeah.
Don't block the eyepiece.
Yeah, maybe.
Hmm.
You can see, I mean, I just take a lot of local images, because that's where I do my walking, and my camera comes with me. Simple as that. Cemeteries, I know it sounds dire, but I actually really love cemeteries, and I like the gravestones. I like the ivy on them. Again, all those leaves on that gravestone were individually masked, so I could give them a different colour. And the one underneath this one, with the green carpet, that they were all masked individually as well, granted with the kind of lasso thing that it does, and then with the edges all tidied up, but yeah, that was all done individually as well.
Got more
But it's
patience.
worth it, I think. And then you can see I've got my little photo logo on the bottom because I don't want people stealing my images. Not that I think they're any good enough too, but you know, if they do, they're going to steal one with my logo on it. And I bought a photo logo package to do that. So you basically import them, you buy the signature, they design it for you. You buy the little package. It's not very expensive. You put all the pictures in, and then you stamp all your logos on. You can position it where you want, and then you export them again with the logo on the bottom. But that was makes them look a bit more professional, right?
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, and then we've got the one with the purple sky there as well, so that's a bit of a different one on the right hand side.
I like that one. I like the row of tombstones.
Yeah,
But then
and again, all individually masked. So yeah. Any other questions, guys?
It'd be interesting with the water ones to see what would happen if you put a polarizer on in front of your infrared filter.
Yeah, again, something I haven't done.
Yeah, I don't know if the polarizer will affect those wavelengths. That is an interesting question.
Yeah.
Research.
I'll get back to you. These were kind of the original ones that I took when I first started doing it, but you can see they're slightly different. I do actually like, and I was making my own logo at the bottom there, infrared picture. The one in the middle there, that's Helen Mill down in Devon, and I quite like that as kind of sepia effect. And I've had that printed on pearl paper, and the whites come up really nice on that with a bit of a shimmer.
Oh look, it's Ilfracombe.
It is Ilfracombe. We can all go on holiday from here, right?
You're talking about the walks, but my wife came across a whole series of virtual walks. So there's one going on tonight or tomorrow where you walk around New York, and you can actually go out walking with your app. And so you're walking along your local streets, but actually the guy is walking you through New York. And there was one the other day, which was Venice. So that could be quite fun.
That'd be
Oh,
awesome.
I like the pink one.
Yeah, that's Devices. That's that was one of the first ones that. No, it's not. Sorry, that one's Kennet and Avon. But I've got a whole series of ones from Devices which are very similar.
Do you find with all the processing that some of the images get noise in them?
No, not really, because I always take the image as I want to see it, so I don't do any cropping. And the ISO is always quite low, so I don't really see grain unless I intentionally put it in there. And the
only artifacts you get are those reflections.
Yeah. I quite like grain though, because I like high contrast and grain in the
I
right
think you
place.
can add grain in Photoshop.
Yeah.
It's particularly good on black and white images, I find, because black and white I associate with older photos, and older photos are more grainy.
Oh, that's nice as well. That one on the right.
This black one. Hold on. Where did that go? The black and white one. Yeah, see, they were the first ones that I took. So I wasn't. They were literally were point and shoot, see what happens, then edit them. But in actual fact, they came out all right.
Yeah.
It kind of looks.
That's devices. Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah, the dark sky looks good.
Yeah. Oh, and this is Telford. Anyway, they're all on my website if you want to look. Otherwise, we'll get bogged down with just the images, right?
Well, no, I mean there's two sides. There's the technical side of processing, but also there's the artistic side of the end result, and that more than any on other photography is down to you and what you choose, where you choose to put those sliders.
Yeah, and exactly that. And that's the thing with infrared is that if you gave us all a different image to edit, we would all come out with definitely different results, because some people were going to love the random of being able to put a red sky in and have, you know, purple grass, and some people want to try and keep it as natural as possible, and it's never going to be completely natural because that's not the point. The point is it's supposed to be slightly quirky, but in actual fact it is probably the most natural, because it's light that you can't see anyway. It's all there, we just don't, our eyes just don't see it, and all that happens is the camera brings it out, and then that's when you can manipulate it. This particular one with the pram, I think this is one of my favorite pictures ever, and it's really quite spooky. And you know what, I stood there for ages waiting, making sure there was nobody in the background, and that's one of my favorite images, that one.
Maybe didn't speak right, did it?
I think I'm done. If anybody's got anything else they want to ask.
Do you emit these black and white ones the same as you would a colour with the changing of the channels? And
Say again?
would you edit the black and white ones the same as the colour ones?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you still
still-
have to change the channels.
Yeah.
And,
You still change the channels. You still there is an option to just have black and white, but I would personally change the channels, and then I would desaturate everything to make sure it's definitely black and white, because otherwise you might end up with a little bit of a hint of colour.
Angela, you haven't mentioned anything about price of, say, converting a camera or buying a new camera.
I can't remember how much it was.
Yeah, well, ask Darren.
No, he didn't buy it.
He probably knows how much it was, though.
But remembers that the guy in the Isle of Wight sourced my camera. So my camera's quite an expensive one anyway, because it's a Sony A7. And in actual fact, he was. I bought, I had two cameras from him. My original one, I dropped and broke. That's just classic me. But that one wasn't very much. That one was only about 200. Because they're used. Remember, they're used cameras. They're not brand new cameras. They tend to be used, and he sources them and refurbs them. So that one, I think that was a Sony one, and it was about 200 quid, because I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it as much as I actually do. So actually, when I dropped it, it was kind of a bit of a godsend, really, because it meant I had to buy another one. So I broke it to a point.
Upgrade!
Sent it back to him, sent it back to the guy, and he said he'd repair it for me. And then when he opened it, he said, "You've cracked the board." So he said, "I can source you another board, but it will cost you as much as another camera." I said, "Well, don't worry about it then." So he sourced me an A7, because I'm a Sony lady. You guys all know this. So it sourced me an A7.
I'm a Sony lady. I am a Sony lady. Isn't that a Beyonce number?
No, not quite. Could be though.
All the Sony ladies.
He sourced it and then converted it for me. So I had to pay for the camera and the conversion. The conversion itself is about 150 maybe. I don't know. It's just to do with how many hours it takes, and that depends which camera he's converting, really. But he does everything. If you look at, I can't remember his name. That's on my website as well, actually. He does Canon, he does Nikon, he does Sony, he does all of them, and he will source them and convert them, but mirrorless only, yeah. But I know that there's, and Andrew, I think you know somebody, don't you, in the UK that does them? Was that you?
Yeah, I looked at getting my 60D converted, and that was 250, but
Yeah,
that's a
see.
mirrored camera.
Yeah.
So there are other people around, but the guy in the Isle of Wight, and again, you know, he also threw in an extra battery for me because I'd bought a second camera from him. I ordered one lens, and he said to me, "You don't want that one." He said, "You want this one, and it's cheaper." So he's not, and he kind of started as a hobby, and all he's done is he's just expanded his hobby out to other people. I guess he likes doing it and hasn't got room for cameras of his own. I don't know. We all get like that, don't we? So yeah, I would, if you're going to do it, he's a really good guy. I don't know where Paul got his from in the end. I can't even
But
see
if
it.
anybody wants to try it with a filter, I've lent Stuart a R720 filter.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, Andrew.
Yeah, so
I'm
once
with
Stuart's finished with it, you know, he can give it to anybody else because it doesn't fit any of my lenses anymore. So you can just pass it around, Stuart, if people want to try it.
Yeah.
How much was it to buy then, the infrared lens filter?
The filter.
For
That will
my
also
my
depend
lens,
on your lens size, won't it? Depending on what millimeter.
yeah, all my
72.
lenses are 77 now, and that's about £110 to buy one for that size lens.
Paul, Paul, you started with a lens, didn't you? He's muted. Is he listening? Oh, the filter. He's not. I've unmuted you, Paul. You can talk.
I'm muted.
Did you? You started with a filter, didn't you? And then you bought a camera.
Yeah, it
Didn't
was rubbish.
you?
Can you hear me? Yeah, the filter was, I mean, the big advantage over a converted camera is you can look through the eyepiece and you can see what's going on.
Yeah.
Whereas you put a filter on the DSLR and it's difficult to see, the exposure is long, and what you get is debatable. I was lucky on mine because I did it within about 2 weeks of the Sony guys coming to the club. And they gave out something like 10-15% discount cards. They went into the shop in Reading and said, "Can you do this?" Yep. And he said, "And you're in luck because Sony are also doing cashback." And the guy in the Isle of Wight said, "Do you know what? If you're buying this for new, I couldn't source a second-hand one as cheap." So I got a new one, never come out of the box, brand new, went to him and was converted. But the filter I used, the filter he gave me, is a UV plus blue plus IR pass filter.
Oh yeah, because he gave you a different one, didn't he?
Oh, what you get on that, you can use. You just straight out of the camera, boom, and it's there. And that's worth looking at. But certainly, the other thing is, you're thinking of doing it with your DSLR, there's some way where you hold your TV remote and look at it. And depends how much red you can see on the remote as to whether your camera is actually going to work. And mine's never going to work. But no, it's good, it's interesting. And maybe in 15 years' time, I might get some of the images that Angela does.
Didn't take me that long, Paul. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
Excellent. Any more questions, anyone? Oh, Stuart's showing a filter.
That's the filter that Andrew gave me.
That looks like about 50 mil.
It's very dark, very, very dark.
Yeah.
They are dark, Stuart, and that's why you have to have a really long exposure, which is why it will only work on static items.
Yeah, but I'm 55. I tried it up in Common on Saffel and the water, and I might be able to bring a picture next time, show you what I got. It wasn't that dark when I took the picture. It was quite pinky, kind of pinky.
Yeah, it would be.
So that was it. But I've brought it in, but I don't know how to develop it just in elements, like, you know, whether
You can't do it in elements.
Yeah.
Because you haven't got the color channel swap.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
have to do it in Photoshop, not in Elements, because in
That's
Elements you don't have the color swap,
No, no.
channel swap.
Couldn't do anything with it.
Would that filter work better on a mirrorless camera?
Doesn't make any difference.
It depends. The different so all the cameras, on unconverted cameras, has got a little infrared filter on the front of it, and different manufacturers use a different level. So some cameras work better with the filter, some makes work better with the filter than others, because it depends on how much infrared the manufacturer is blocking with their filter on the sensor.
Just wondering if it worked with my Z6.
Sorry, it's my phone.
Well,
Angela,
the beauty of digital, Ray, is that you can just try it and not worry about using film, right? It's only time, and that's all it is.
Very different from film days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I think, Angela, thank you very much.
Thank you, Angela.
Welcome.
Nice one.
well done.
What are you doing next week, Angela?
So let me screen share this. And let me do that. Because today is the day we announce the winners of the SYMMETRY project vote.
Oh, yeah.
So as always, let's announce it in reverse order. So third place goes to Anne Sayer. Congratulations, Anne. Really nice picture. There were a couple of dandelion clocks submitted, but this one got the most votes. Second place goes to Lynn Clements. So well done, Lynn. Nice picture of a bridge there. Where is that, Lynn?
Over the River Kwai.
I'm not sure if she's muted or not.
Yeah, I've just unmuted. It's up in Yorkshire.
Ah, right, lovely.
Bridge.
Okay, and first place goes to, drum roll, please. Stuart.
Thank you.
So well done, guys. I'll send the certificates out as soon as I can produce them for you. And just a reminder that the next project vote is on Flora. So there are the dates. I'll send this out in an email to you as a summary. But 19th of June submissions, that's the Friday again. So a couple of other things I wanted to say, and they're about future things. The first thing is that the next project vote after this, so the July project vote, currently is called Glamour. Now, traditionally, glamour photography refers to models, male and female, but, you know, traditional portraiture style studio photography. And I guess, you know, we could have considered that. But given that social distancing and all that stuff, it's kind of difficult to organise a model unless it's the other half, and you're probably sick of each other by now anyway. So I guess the question is, do we continue with glamour? And glamour can take many forms. So it doesn't necessarily have to be glamour of a person. It could be glamour of a flower arrangement. It could be a wide interpretation of what glamour means. But I guess, you know, we need to consider what we want to do here. And if you have any opinions, either drop them in the chat now or drop us an email and let us know your opinion. But I would like to know what you think about that. Should we go ahead with glamour for July? or should we change it?
I just spent hours doing Pepper in a bikini.
Well, it could be glamour of your pet. Yes, absolutely. I mean, Chris has got a head start with his background, so you know, there's a number of ways that we could approach this, but I don't know, and I can't decide what is the right or wrong answer. So I thought it's probably best that we decide collectively. And then the other thing about the future is the next meeting next week. I was wondering whether I could do maybe a photo restoration thing. So taking old family photos that have got creases and marks and stains and God knows what else on them, and cleaning them up for you know, to bring them back from obscurity. Again, let me know whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, or whether you'd like something else. But I thought it would be, again, it's another thing you can do indoors when not everyone can get out. And it's incremental in terms of you can use Lightroom, you can use Elements, you can use Photoshop or any of the other products to do this kind of work. So I thought, you know, it could have a wider appeal, especially if you've got photos like we have from donkeys years ago from the family that we've inherited. And some of them can be really revitalized by a bit of attention.
I'd be interested in faded coloured photographs. I've never had any success at getting colour back into a photograph.
Yeah, tricky. Yeah, it is tricky. Yeah, I mean, black and white is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Restoring a black and white photo is pretty straightforward. With just a couple of techniques and tools, you can do some pretty good magic. Colour is a bit more involved.
Have you done any, Andrew?
I've only done black and white. When my mum passed away, we found her wedding album and it had been damaged, and I scanned them all in and I retouched them all. And some I couldn't fix because they had stains on, but I managed to fix most of them. But I haven't done any colour work.
Yeah, I've done a bit, and noise is one of the biggest problems that I've found, is you get very grainy very quickly if you're not careful. But anyway, let me know. I thought that is something I could do, and if it's of interest, then yeah, we can do that. If not, then we'll pick another subject. So let me know. What else was there to say?
There's been nothing in the chat channel, Rick.
Nothing in the chat channel. Okay, thank you for monitoring.
On the raffle.
Do withdraw the raffle. But do let me know by email, guys, what you think about the photo restoration. So I don't want to do it if most of you are going to sit there twiddling your thumbs or staring at the ceiling. If it's of general interest, I'll do it. But if something else is of interest, then we might as well spend our time doing that. So we'll go from there. All right. Well, look, let's close it now. We're coming up to the hour, and I hope you'll stay safe and see you next time. And unless there's anything else anyone wants to say, we'll call it a day.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right then.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Ange.
Bye, guys.
Cheerio.
All right.
Bye-bye. See you
Bye-bye.
soon. Bye.
Bye, Angela.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye, Esme.
Bye, Angela. Bye, Darren.
Bye.
Bye.